Welcome to Disturbing the Peace. I'm your host, John Amanchukwu, coming to you live from Y Refi Studios. Today on the show, I want to talk about several topics that point to a greater problem in America. What do you get when victim narratives, pulpits without reverence, and politicians without backbone all collide at the same time? I'll tell you what you get. You get chaos. Right now, we're watching controversy erupt involving a Louis Vuitton customer claiming discrimination, a pastor turning the pulpit into a stage where it becomes a carnival or a circus because the pastor, this fake preacher, begins to use profanity while preaching. And now, even high-level officials like Joe Kent walking away from the power over a war they say never should have happened in the first place. And this is a flip-flop because Joe Kent goes on the Sean Ryan show and supports it. But then he resigns and goes on Tucker Carlson's show and he does an about face. How does that happen? Is he compromised? That is the question. These aren't random headlines. They are signs of deeper problems. We've lost standards, accountability, and discernment. Everybody's talking, but nobody's taking responsibility. And we're going to talk about this today here on Disturbing the Peace.
Protector on a mission from heaven. There's too much at stake to be quiet. Let's disturb the peace. Yeah, you. Let's disturb the peace. We're trying to match your cool. Disturb the peace. I'm a protector on a mission from heaven. There's too much at stake to be quiet. Let's disturb the peace. Yeah, you. Disturb the peace. We're trying to match your cool. Disturb the peace.
And now on Disturbing the Peace, President Trump's director of National Counterterrorism Center, Joe Kent, announced his immediate resignation, and shockwaves have been felt through social media and on the news, citing the decision to begin a war against Iran when Iran posed no imminent threat to our nation. But what makes this more complicated, my friends, is this isn't the first time Kent has spoken on Iran. In the January 2020 post on X, Kent tagged the president and wrote, and I quote, "We should not sit and wait for the next attack. Wipe Iran's ballistic capability out. They are only targets now." How do you say that in 2020? And then how do you go on the Sean Ryan show and say similar things? And then in the span of about 3 months from going on the Sean Ryan show, you're now resigning? Something's fishy. I don't know what's going on, but I'm going to bring on my good friend, Lieutenant Colonel Alan West, to help me unpack this. Colonel, how are you doing?
Doing very well, John. Thanks for having me on. God bless.
It's an honor to have you join the show. You heard the intro. You know what we're dealing with right now. There are people from within and people from without who I believe are seeking to sabotage our current administration. There are people who once held solid positions on their views on the Iran war, which we have been at war with them for the past 46 years. This is not a new war. This is an old war, but we're just trying to bring an end to it, right? What are your thoughts on Joe Kent doing an about face?
Well, first of all, let me just clarify to everyone that is in your audience. I came on active duty 7 days after the October the 23rd, 1983 Beirut barracks bombing. So that's how long I've been dealing with Iran. And of course, being in Iraq and Afghanistan, saw it face to face on the ground. So when I look at Joe Kent and this incredible about face that you see, you read the reports, he has not been involved in any of the Iranian intelligence briefings. And I truly believe that this is a way for him to try to deflect the fact that he was probably about to be fired, which many people say. And it also makes you wonder, you said it earlier, are some of these people compromised? I mean, how do you have such an abrupt change when we have these receipts on you saying these things? And furthermore, let's be very honest, Joe Kent lost his life, his wife's life, to Islamic terrorism and jihadism. Who's the number one state sponsor of Islamic terrorism? It's Iran.
You know what? I didn't know that point. That's an interesting point, that his wife was, eliminated by someone that was an Islamist. I didn't know that.
Yeah, his wife was killed. She was working with special operations forces in Syria, and she was killed in an Islamic terrorist attack. So again, why would you have this incredible about face? Because we know, as I stated, who the number one state sponsor of Islamic terrorism is. And unfortunately, number two is Qatar.
Wow. The average man, of course, if he's working in the role that Joe Kent is, or maybe he's in the military or special forces, he wants to vindicate and fight for his country. But most men, the average man is going to want to defend the honor of his wife and do something to fight for her legacy. But a resignation isn't that. I want to show you this first video clip of Joe Kent speaking on the Sean Ryan show, and then we'll get a reaction back from you.
They're still registering for the draft, aren't they? Like that's the logical conclusion to the direction that we're heading in right now, unless we make some serious changes.
I mean, I've already heard rumors that Fifth Group is going to be sending guys to Iraq because of the escalated situation with Iran now.
Yeah. I mean, most Americans aren't aware of it. Our troops in Iraq and Syria have been attacked 150 plus times by Iranian proxies. And when we say Iranian proxies, we got to be clear on what that is. That's the Iraqi government that we pay. Because after the Iraqi military, we spent $2 trillion on, surrendered to ISIS, we had to go back in there in very short order and stand the military back up again. And guess who filled the breach? The Shia militias controlled by Iran did. And the Iraqi government's controlled by Iran.
Lieutenant Colonel Alan West, what do you think here? What's going on?
When you talk about these proxies, the Shia militias there in Iraq, and we're starting to already see some problems with them, creating chaos, trying to undermine the Iraqi government. We know that Hezbollah, Hamas, the Houthis, Islamic Jihad, Al-Quds, Al-Aqsa, Martyrs Brigade, the whole kit and caboodle are being funded by Iran. And so if you want to say that, as Joe Kent said in his resignation, there's no direct threat to the United States of America, that's just not the truth. As a matter of fact, you just had a Pakistani man that was convicted for his attempted to assassinate, for his plan to assassinate President Trump, and he was sponsored by Iran. So this just happened in 2024. So again, Iran continues to be a threat to the United States of America. And I think that what we see happening over there in Operation Epic Fury is without a doubt a very, very, very successful operation just going into its third week.
Yes, I agree. Let me show you this next video clip of Joe Kent speaking to Tucker Carlson yesterday. Take a look at this.
We still don't know what happened in Butler. We don't know what happened with Charlie Kirk. And by no means am I saying the Israelis did this or any of that, but I'm saying there's a lot of unanswered questions there. And there is enough data to at least say that there's a good chance that President Trump feels like he is under threat. We're not allowed to ask, basically, was there any linkage between what took place with Asif Merchant, who was recruited by the Iranians to come to America to recruit proxies to kill President Trump. The FBI put a confidential human source at him. All this is public now. This is all out there in the open. And he's arrested. And then 2 days later, a sniper takes a shot at President Trump. We think Merchant and we know the CHS was talking about the human source that the FBI put at Merchant. They were talking about, hey, we could kill the president potentially with a sniper rifle. But then they arrest him. 2 days later, Butler happens. And Crooks, according to the official narrative anyways, is an enigma. We don't know anything about him. We can't get into his devices. If we did get into his devices, maybe there's nothing there. No more questions are allowed to be asked about Thomas Crooks. And then, Charlie Kirk is killed publicly in a very horrific way. And we're not really even allowed to look into that at all. And Charlie Kirk was one of President Trump's closest advisors. And he also advocated heavily against a war with Iran. He was in the Oval Office in the lead up to the 12-day war. I wasn't particularly close with Charlie. He was very gracious to me when I was running for Congress, very, very supportive. So we knew each other. And the last time I saw Charlie Kirk on this earth was in June in the West Wing in the stairway. And I said hi to him, and he looked me in the eye, and he said very loudly, and it's a small, you've been in the West Wing. It's small. It's a tight space. And he said, "Joe, stop us from getting into a war with Iran," very loudly.
He was single-minded.
And he walked off, and he went, I believe, into the Oval. So when one of President Trump's closest advisors, who is vocally advocating for us to not go to war with Iran and for us to rethink at least our relationship with the Israelis, and then he's suddenly publicly assassinated, and we're not allowed to ask any questions about that. It's a data point. It's a data point that we need to look into.
What do you mean when you say we're not allowed to ask any questions about that?
We've been told that this individual, Robinson, is a lone gunman, and maybe he is. But the investigation that I was a part of, the National Counterterrorism Center was a part of, we were stopped from continuing to investigate. And the FBI will say that they stopped that because they wanted to have turn everything over to the Utah state authorities. Everything's going to trial. It's very, very sensitive. But there was still a lot for us to look into that I can't really get into. But there was still linkage for us to investigate that we needed to run down. And I'm not making any conclusions. I'm not saying
no, I don't think you
are. Because of this happened. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying there's unanswered questions. We know the pressure because of the text messages that have been made public, that Charlie was under a lot of pressure from a lot of pro-Israel donors. And again, we know Charlie was advocating to President Trump against this war with Iran. And we knew at the end of the 12-day war, at the end of Midnight Hammer, that the Israelis were going to come back and ask us to go back to war again.
And so, Lieutenant Colonel Allen West, there's a lot being mentioned and thrown out here in Joe Kent's rant. We don't know much about Butler. We don't know much about the Charlie Kirk assassination. Kirk was against the Iran war, although Kirk said on more than one occasion that he trusted the judgment of President Trump with handling what's best when it comes to the Iran war. Mm-hmm. He also mentioned that we're not allowed to ask questions and then stop from investigating the Kirk assassination. What are your thoughts about this? Is this what you're hearing from the connections that you have? Where are we?
Well, I mean, I would just say there's a lot of speculation in what we saw with Joe Kent there. I'd like to know, was he really there at the same time with Charlie Kirk going into the Oval Office? I mean, I'm sure that's something that the visitors logs could say. Is there anyone else to corroborate Charlie Kirk loudly shouting out, "Joe, stop us from getting into a war with Iran"? And so I think that when you look at Joe Kent, if you want to try to vindicate yourself, what's the first place you run to? You run to Tucker Carlson. You run and you start, putting out all of these question marks, kind of like the Riddler. Remember the Riddler? He had question marks all over himself. And so you start putting out all these question marks and, creating all of these conspiracies to try to cover up yourself and the resignation and possibly the now FBI investigation that is opened up on him because they believe he was leaking classified material. So I think that Joe Kent finds himself in a lot of hot water. He's trying to do the old Heisman and push it off on somebody else and make us, the Kansas City Shuffle. You look left, they go right. So again, President Trump had every right to do what he has done as commander in chief. He had all the facts to do what he has done. He's the first president in 47 years to stand up and say enough from the #1 state sponsor of Islamic terrorism, this theocratic, political, totalitarian, tyrannical regime that has been holding the world hostage for all of these years. And so I have no problems with what President Trump is doing in Iran. And I think that Joe Kent should go and talk to some of those young men and young women who have lost victims because of Iran, and maybe talk to some of the families of those who lost their lives because of Iran.
For him to be under investigation for supposedly leaking information, he's under investigation by the FBI now. To listen to his statements in the interview, you can see why. Yes. With the leading answers and how he's leaving the door open for the additional speculation and the conspiracy theories, which Lieutenant Colonel, you know just as well as I know, there's a big market for that today.
Absolutely.
dabbling into the realm of the unknown. It's almost like people want to be God, to be omniscient, omnipresent, omnipotent, know all things, but you just don't. And there's information that the FBI and the Secret Service and the likes and the president are not going to divulge with everyday average Americans. Why would they?
It comes down to a very simple principle that we have in the military, and it's called the need to know. And if you don't have a need to know, you don't need to know. And so you're right. When we have all of these keyboard warriors and everybody is seeking for relevance because they can start a program, a show, or whatever, and they can put all of these questions out there and these speculations out there, that's a very dangerous place that we're in the country. Look, I'm all for freedom of speech, freedom of expression. I'm all for making sure that we share information with the American people, but you should not be out there sharing classified information and information that the American people just really don't have a need to know. I think the American people want to be safe and secure. And you talk about eliminating a country like Iran. And where are these the leftist women, these feminists? I mean, where are they speaking out about the way that women are treated in Iran? Look at those soccer players that, because of the threats to their families, they're having to go back to that tyrannical regime, and probably no doubt what will happen to them. So it's just very odd to me that everyone right now is trying to, make Iran seem like some type of nice bunch of guys that we're going over and we're picking on. This is not about victimization.
What do you think this is doing to the Republican Party, especially as we lead up to the midterm elections?
There's a lot of people, again, speculation saying that, there's a big split within MAGA world and everything like that. I don't see that. I don't think so. I think that everyone understands, and you look at a lot of the polling out there, it is north of 80% supporting President Trump. And that's from that MAGA Republican base, if you want to call it that, because you go back 47 years. And I think there's something else we need to understand. Wouldn't be a problem with Iran if it hadn't been for Jimmy Carter messing up that decision. Wouldn't be a problem with Iran if it hadn't been for Barack Obama and Joe Biden sending them $17.7 billion and allowing them to pursue a nuclear ambition. So again, we finally have a president that has stood up to them. First time since Ronald Reagan, when he sunk many of the Iranian naval vessels because of the sea mines that they planted out there. Iran has no Navy, has no Air Force, no air defense. Their ballistic missile stocks are depleted. Their drone stocks are depleted. We have them in the right position so that we can have peace and security and stability in the Middle East.
For people out there who don't understand the threat that Islam poses to Western civilization, in particular Sharia law, can you unpack that just a little bit? I know you know a little bit about that. Can you help American citizens, especially people like Joy Reid, who think that, Iranian women, American women have it worse than Iranian women? I mean,
yeah, that's right. Yeah, American women, that you don't have a morality police that goes around, whacking American women. You don't have that. And if Joy Reid wants to understand what a country with Sharia law looks like, go to the United Kingdom. And I believe that one of the reasons why Britain, Keir Starmer, is not really fully supporting President Trump and wants to go down there and give naval assets to open up the Straits of Hormuz and escort those ships, because of the domestic Islamist problem that he has on the streets there. There are places that women cannot walk through. There are rape gangs in the United Kingdom that are going after young girls. And yet you have a government that just casts it aside under this, stupid bowing down to the gods of multiculturalism. We don't want that here. We don't want any parallel systems of jurisprudence in the United States of America. It's not working in the UK. It's not working in Australia. It's not working in France.
Turning to the landscape of the midterm elections in Texas, were you overall pleased with the efforts of the Republican Party there? And what are some of the races that stand out for you when it comes to the midterm elections?
Well, I'm very concerned about our turnout. We had more Democrats vote than Republicans in the state of Texas. And
wow.
So, yes. And so we need to get our enthusiasm up. The Democrats are out there voting for all the wrong things, but still they have an enthusiasm to vote for all the wrong things. And so when we have all the issues on our side, we need to stand up, and we need to remember what it was like having Joe Biden in the office and what happened at the border for Texas. So I think it's when I look at the races, this runoff race for Senate, that's going to be very, very huge, very big. John Cornyn, is not exactly a constitutional conservative type. And Ken Paxton, Ken Paxton has so much baggage, you can pack it in a C-17 Air Force cargo plane. So it's just, and I voted for Wesley Hunt in that Senate primary because a great young man. I still think he has a fantastic future. But when I look at woke Jesus James Tallarico, the Democrat nominee for Senate down there, I mean, John, this guy is demonic. I mean, what he is doing and perverting the word of God, and actually people following him for that, that shows you there's a threat. And you just talked about some of the things that are happening in the pulpit in our country. James Tallarico is a great example of that.
I've labeled James Tallarico as a new age Pee Wee Herman unicorn. Instead of calling him Tallarico, I call him Tallafrico. And it's true. He's 100 times worse than Jasmine Crockett. But
Yes.
what the white liberals did is that they found someone that wasn't as loud, not as brash, not as bombastic, a little bit more just refined, but yet and still, it's still rat poison. Rat poison is 99% good ingredients, but it's the 1% that can take your life away.
Correct.
But considering that district that Jasmine Crockett left, District 30, there are two gentlemen who are going against Freddie Haynes.
Yes.
We can't allow Freddie Haynes.
Oh, I completely agree. And I think that Freddie Haynes is another version of James Tallarico. Look, I think one of the great things that you could have happen in the state of Texas is that Blacks and Hispanics will look at those two men who are supposedly in the pulpit, supposedly a seminarian and a pastor, and will say that we cannot vote for this. We cannot support this because this is completely against who we are and what we believe in when we go to church and our Christian faith. So I think that is a really important thing that the body of Christ and pastors and men of the cloth, such as yourself, should be able to bring out, is that this is a dangerous precedent of a Freddie Haynes and also a James Tallarico out there. And I think, again, that, not supporting Jasmine Crockett, you're going to see a lot of Blacks stay home in that race for U.S. Senate.
Do you think that the guys who are up for a runoff for Freddie Haynes' district, that the District 30, do you think either of them have a legitimate chance to defeat Freddie Haynes?
Well, I would tell you it's a tough mountain to climb. There's no doubt about it. When you look at the numbers of it, it's a D plus, I believe, 20 to 25 district. But again, the thing is that if you can convince people that Freddie Haynes does not support your principles and values, at a pastor, let's ask Freddie Haynes, does he believe in child gender mutilation? Let's ask Freddie Haynes, does he supports, all of this transgender stuff? Let's ask, put him in that box, put him in that corner where he has to choose between what he says he is in the pulpit or what he says he is as a politician. And I think that is the way that you can really attack that. And I think that's the exact same thing you're going to see happen with Tallarico as well. And Tallarico cannot go down to the border counties where Donald Trump flipped 13 or 15 of them. He can't go down with that message. He open borders and trying to browbeat people and saying you're not a real Christian if you just don't allow people to come into the country illegally. No.
Yeah. Well, I want to do everything within my power to keep the James Tallaricos out and the Freddie Haynes out of Congress, because I know the spiritual implications. I know the apostasy that is to come.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
I'm well in tune on the fact that these men are grievous wolves who the Apostle Paul said after his departure would come in, not sparing the flock. and will seek to corrupt the church. We know it will take place, and people are going to adhere to what they have to say. And so, just to share this with you, I'm willing to help and support in any possible way.
You know, you come on down. You've already been to my church, a Sojourn. Yeah. We'll get you another pair of boots and get you some more barbecue. But you come on down to Dallas County, to Texas, and I'd love to host you. And you can stay at my house. Don't worry about it.
Sounds good. Let's do it. Even running an ad, I'm all in. We have to keep these heretics out. Lieutenant Colonel Allen West, thank you so much. You're always so brilliant and sharp. One day I'm gonna get there. One day, one day, if I keep living, I'm gonna get there. But thank you so much for your voice.
My pleasure, my honor, and God be with you and your family.
Yes, sir. God bless you, folks. Let's face it. If you have distressed or defaulted private student loans, nobody is coming to bail you out, and bankruptcy is not an option. But you can take charge of your situation by contacting Y Refi. Can you imagine being debt-free and not living under this burden anymore? The first step is contacting Y Refi. If you go to yrefi.com, you can read testimonials from other people who have been where you are and how they've escaped. You can even see what their monthly payments were versus what they are now. Y Refi offers a 3-minute rate check without any credit impact. Bad credit is accepted. Do you have a co-borrower? Y Refi can get them released from the loan. You can give mom and dad a break. You can even skip a payment every 6 months, up to 12 times without penalty. You don't have to ignore that mountain of student loan statements on your kitchen table anymore. Just call 888-Y-REFI-85 or log on to yrefi.com. And now on Disturbing the Peace, we're looking at 2 viral moments today. But this isn't about, Louis Vuitton or even this one sermon clip. There's a bigger picture here. It's about standards, because now everything is content, and people have become content crazy. They're looking for that moment to go viral. It's almost like the people who sit down and just start eating, and all of a sudden they just want to videotape themselves eating, I guess, a Rice Krispie treat or a bowl of gumbo, and they just want people to see them slurp up soup. I don't get it. But everything is performative, and even the pulpit isn't off limits when it comes to these performances. So the question is, have we lost our sense of what is appropriate, what's earned, and what's sacred? Joining me now is Tinashe Peter, a voice who's not afraid to challenge cultural issues and topics. Tinashe, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, brother. I appreciate you, Pastor.
Listen, what is the meaning of your name so that people can know? My middle name is Kanayo Chukwu. It means I will keep trusting and pleading in God. And Amen Chukwu means I know God. And I just found out that your heritage is from Zimbabwe. So what is the meaning of your name?
So Tinashe, contrary to some folk out there, they think it's just a deviation of Tanisha, Taquandanisha, Tanamanisha. No, it is a Zimbabwean name, a Shona name that means God with us. It is in essence Emmanuel. So, as you professed right before we got on the call, there is power in this space right here with such names.
Indeed. And what year did you give your life to Christ?
Oh, okay. So this is interesting. I was raised in a church, but I came back to faith and really to know Christ really in the last year.
Wow. Come on, man.
I ran for a lifetime and some.
How old are you now?
I knew exactly where I was running from. Just turned 30 about a month ago.
Just turned 30, gave your life to Christ at 29?
That's right. Yeah.
Give me the short and skinny. Give me a 2-minute version of what the Lord had to do to finally get you to say yes. The Bible says, through loving kindness have I drawn you.
That's
and
right.
that word drawn there in the Greek means to drag. And God is willing to do anything possible to drag us to him. He drags us out of the clubhouse. He drags us out of addiction. He'll drag us out of sexual promiscuity and fornication and things of that nature. He will drag us towards him. And listen, if you've been born again, if you're saved, you are thankful for God's ability to drag you. Now, it's not comfortable Sometimes when he has to drag us, you have the
it's the last thing you want in the moment, the first thing you need. Yeah,
exactly. So tell me about that, man.
So, okay, this is the interesting thing. You said something about dragging you out of a few places. 19 years old, I was dragged out of addiction, dragged out the streets. 24, 25, 26, 27, dragged out of New Age. And I was sort of in the wilderness, for lack of a better term, neglecting basically anything my daddy told me and wanted anything else. It couldn't be the answer that he told me it was. It couldn't be this Jesus. It could anything but that. However, he knew me and he knew that I have an insatiable need to know the truth. I've always been the kid who would ask why, even when it wasn't any of my business. And so I just so happened to fall into spaces where it became my business. And, you know, I got into politics, conservatism. I started speaking my mind on these things. And the deeper I got in, the more I realized, and this is a vital aspect of my overall testimony, I didn't get here through merely the love or the understanding of the love of Jesus. I got here by understanding that evil is real.
Oh, unpack that for me.
Yeah. So as I'm making my way into this space and realizing, okay, I didn't call it a calling. I just said, this is my purpose, right? I'm supposed to be speaking on these issues that I feel matter. Why are people lying about things like, you know, why Black culture is the way it is, and why are people lying about what's going on in Israel, why are people lying about these things? And so, you know, you can't help in this space, and you know this, right? As a creator yourself, you're exposed to a lot of things, good, bad, and ugly. And so I'm delving into everything. I want to know both sides of every conversation. I want to know what's going on. And ironically enough, it was actually me seeing footage for myself of October 7th that I say, wait a minute. So not only you tell me that this is what actually happened, but you're telling me that half the world is endorsing this?
Wow.
And I didn't have an answer for that anymore. I couldn't go to my New Age, well, you know, it's vibes, bro. Right? It couldn't be just two sides of the same coin. It's just, you know, frequencies, and this is low vibrational. No, that's evil.
Wow.
Yeah.
So talk about that. You know, you hear people get into the mysticism, the spirituality, the Egyptology, all of that stuff, the vibes, all of that stuff. We live in an age where people are burning sage, they're doing crystals, they are finding spiritual appropriations.
Yeah.
Why are those things, you know, not compatible with the true Christian faith?
Because you're playing God. You're really, so the whole thing about New Age spirituality is you're trying to enlighten yourself to a point of self-godhood, right? I must sound real familiar. Anybody who knows anything about the word, right? What was the original sin before that garden? It was, I will ascend to be God, right? I will exalt myself. That's all New Age is. It's, I'm exalting myself every day. I'm doing affirmations. I'm doing the meditations. I'm doing the incantations, right? Anything but Galatians. Just so I can get just so I can get myself to self-godhood. And I mean, in the midst of that, you're in a deception, you're in darkness, you're not knowing up from down. But I felt a certain level of dissonance now that I look back, because on one end, I'm talking about I'm God, but then I also feel helpless and weak. And so I'm overcompensating for that. Right. And so that's really the appeal is like, I get to be the God over my own life.
And, you know, people desire that more than anything. You know, 2 Timothy chapter 3, verse 1 says, this know also in the last days that dangerous times shall come. The King James Version says perilous, for men shall be lovers of their own selves. Self-promotion. The narcissism of what we see today on social media, the intentional sabotage that we are witnessing. We've always seen it on the left, and we're keen to see it on the left, right? We can call out the woke left, but we find it hard to call out the same kind of travesties on the right. And if you use the term woke right, then something's wrong with you. But if there can be a woke left, can there not be a woke right?
That's right.
And we're seeing that people are coming in and they're trying to spoil the opportunities and the chances that we have for the midterm elections.
Yeah.
And there are people who purported for many years that they were all about the conservative movement, but they're saying now, hey, don't even vote. Don't even vote.
Or vote Democrat. That's what they got on now, right?
Or vote Democrat.
Yeah.
I mean, so and it's insane.
Yeah.
We all know this, but there's this thing for self-promotion.
Yes.
You know, to be a lover of yourself. And so what was the process like where you had to come to the realization that Tinashe had to be crucified? It's one thing to see the necessity and the significance of another person needing to be sacrificed, needing to quell or reduce the pride and the arrogance and the evil and the corruption that's in their own heart. But it's another thing when one comes to the realization that, no, it's the man in the mirror. I need to die to self. What was that process like?
So I want to start off by saying, you talk about Timothy, and this morning I'm in 2 Timothy. And it's not because I just jumped there, but it's because I've been doing my from beginning to end, right? I needed from my scratch to scratch. So I went from Genesis 1:1, and now this morning I'm in Timothy.
No way.
Right? I swear on everything I love. I put that on everything I love. I'll open my Bible right now. It's at Hebrews because that's where I ended this morning because I went through Timothy. So that's how God works.
Man.
So, the way you put that, and listen, when your team first reached out, I said, okay, it's about time. This is God working, because you were one of the only people I've seen standing up there at that pulpit saying something that made some sense to me in a while.
Yes, sir.
Who's going to say it? Are we all going to avoid it? Okay, thank you. So anyway, crucifixion itself. There was, some folks have this testimony of, the altar call, etc. For me, it happened in the house by myself. Like, I'm going through the sequence of, Pastor, I'm realizing how weak I am, because everything that I want to happen, right? Like, I got a couple things in there. So recently got married, or at the time was actually about to get married. I want a family. I want kids. We want to, do this. Housewives want to do that. And then I got this. And then now I'm moving overseas because I got this, but then I also need this. And I'm like, Lord, I'm not saying Lord at the time, but I'm saying I can't handle any of this. Why does it feel so heavy? I'm used to being the guy who can make decisions. And it's like, the decision is that, and it's final, and things happen, and I make things happen. And for the first time in a long time, I felt what it actually was, which was a weight on my shoulders. And I started feeling the depression that was already there. Like, I was basically lugging, like you said, I was dragging myself around rather than him dragging me, right? It talks about, give me your yoke because mine is light. I have my yoke on me, but, again, they tell us that, well, and I'm coming from conservatism, so I had an appeal towards more of the red pill stuff early on, and self-development and things of that nature, right?
Sure.
More than just the one who was in, lotus position. I mixed the new age with, well, I still want to be a man in essence. And in that, there was a recognition that, wait a minute, this doesn't feel right. It feels heavy. And this seems like regular stuff in life. I had answers when I was a single man out there in the world, or I seemed to, right? Get myself in this place in my career, get this going, that going. But it's like, I don't know how to make this marriage thing. I don't know how to make family. Like, how do I make my life work? And there was a moment I said, now I know for a fact, and I never stopped believing that there was a creator. I never did.
Right.
I just wasn't willing to accept who that was based on his terms as opposed to my own. That was right. That was the difference. So I said to myself, whatever you are, I didn't even say God. I said, whatever you are, I said, I know that you have to know better than me. You have, even if it's just you have to know better than me. If you actually made me, you know better. And that was the first time in forever. Even when I used to run up and down, in churches when I was a kid, etc., I had never had this personal thing of like me and my creator. It was always through mom. It was always through dad, through family. It was always the church and knees of it all, like the cultural element. It was never like me going, God, I need you. And so that was the open door to go, I don't know who you are and what you are, but I know if you're the one who created all of this, then you have this figured out and I don't.
Yes.
And I didn't even know in that moment that's what humility was. All I knew was I was desperate. And, you know, I hear folks say, well, you know, God ain't answering. I'm like, are you sure you're actually wanting him to, like, do you really want the answer? You know what I'm saying? Like, because he's going to answer. If it's earnest, he's going to answer. That's right. That's law, right? Mm-hmm. An earnest heart is going to find him. But it's like, do you actually want the answer that you're about to get? And again, I believe it's just because I was at a perfect time in my career world. I'm being exposed to all this evil. And I'm like, what's going on here? The world is falling apart. Subconsciously, by the grace of God, having a father who raised me in the faith, I'm having some of these scriptures coming up and things are making sense in the now. Like, oh, wait, he told me about these things of last times. And I mean, I thought it was all nonsense, even though I was believing in more nonsense, right? I'm believing in a new earth. Pastor, I'm believing in new earth. But then I can't believe in God's new earth, right? Like, right. It can make sense.
Confusion.
Yes, absolute confusion. So again, it was just a point where I said, I don't know. And for me, that was the hardest thing. That's why it took so long to get to a point of I don't know. Because, you know, I always was the dude who had an answer for everything, as you can probably tell. Like,
sure.
You know what I mean? I had something to say about everything. I know. I didn't know.
What was that scripture, that sermon, that last thing that got you off the fence and just sealed it? What was it?
Again, God works in the most incredible ways, and this is why when it comes to like an issue of Israel, I realize what God can do with that. I saw a video of, I think it must have been around July 2025, and you see these rockets coming in over Israel, and you see them disseminated like in midair. It looks like they literally, fire's coming down and being evaporated. I'm seeing this for the first time on camera, right? It's this Iron Dome that they talk about. And I don't know if it's Jeremiah that came in, but it wasn't specific. I just knew no weapon formed against you is what came. And again, this is something I heard a million times and always subscribed in 100 different ways, but that hit. And also now I know to be, you know, some eschatology, some prophecy into, wait, there's going to be fire coming from heaven and you will not be touched. And so I don't know why it had to be that. It wasn't John 3:16. You know what I mean?
Right.
I'm like, God, this?
Man,
But in that moment, I was just like, okay, God, you're real. And this is about you. All of this is about you.
Thank you so much for sharing your conversion story.
Absolutely.
It's always good to build someone's faith up so that people can know that we're all, you know, going through the process of the Lord finding ways to get our attention.
Yeah.
There's a God-shaped vacuum in all of us, and he uses whosoever he will to bring us to salvific faith. And it's good to hear your story. I now want to turn to some more cultural events and topics. Recently, there's a woman who went into a Louis Vuitton store.
Okay.
And she pulls out her camera and she starts filming. And she begins to do the whole song and dance of no one's helping me, no one's supporting me, no one has asked what we need. But she's in there with a phone filming people. I want to show you this video clip and get your reaction to it. It's a travesty. Take a look at this.
So we're in the Louis store. I think we've been standing here about a good 5 minutes. 5 minutes.
Okay.
And so I'm gonna see how long it takes before somebody come over here and ask us, can they help us? That's two people. My husband just asked two of the salesmen if we could get some help. We could go to Gucci. We can go across the street. We can go across the way. Matter of fact, we go downtown. No, don't be sorry. Keep your energy. Keep your energy. Come on, baby. Let's go across the Gucci.
But you're like, it's not the same.
No, I said you can't even stood right here like you was helping to get stuff, so that's why I asked you. It's not unfortunate, it's fine that you're not.
I'm recording myself. I'm recording myself. I can record myself. I can record myself. Yes, I can.
I asked you kindly, please not record.
I'm recording myself.
It doesn't matter if you're
It does. Let's take our money somewhere else.
All right, Tinashe, is this a customer or is this someone just simply playing the victim?
You want to know the first thing I noticed?
Yes.
It said LV needs to train their employees better. I know I can be petty like that. So it's already giving me a little bit of a signal into the sort of individual that we're dealing with here.
Okay.
Right? This breaks my heart. Okay. Attention is a drug, as you and she is high on the supply. Wow. I did not see this clip, but I'm so glad you brought it up because once again, we get to see for ourselves that what has plagued the Black community has been a spirit of victimhood. She is going in there looking to be a victim. And you know what? I would play that game all day if I was a salesperson. Okay, if that's her insecurity, like, oh, okay, ignore for a little bit and she'll probably buy the whole store out. That's the type of mentality.
Right.
So, yeah, that is 100% victimology 101. That's crazy.
Do you think we're looking at bad service or a culture that's learned how to manufacture outrage for exposure?
100% is the latter. It has to be, because again, as she said, ironically enough, I'm filming me. This is about me. We didn't get any context. If it really was about service, then maybe you would have done, an op-ed about the, the service being provided, etc. We didn't look. It might have actually not been true. That's the crazy part about it. I'm not saying I don't believe her, right? This is obviously perception, and we can all perceive we're being treated whatever type of way, but it's also a possibility that maybe, just maybe, those sales reps are busy and they come in after, and therefore they're serving who's right in front of them. So for her to take that moment and to make it about herself and her own victimhood and her plight, seeing that, read the book, like, unfortunately, it shows up time and time again. There's this idea of like microaggressions that the left starts pushing, right? You're an expert in critical race theory, and this is something that you speak of extensively. And I see that same sort of mentality of, well, if it ain't racism, then it's got to be microaggressions. If it ain't microaggressions, then it's got to be, it's got to be something.
It's got to be something other than you.
Yes, I'm not the problem.
It can never be you. And so has social media and the need for people to be seen created a bad culture of just entitlement, where, I mean, I could only imagine, being an employee in that store and seeing her walk in and doing the whole song and dance. Actually, if I was working there as a Black man, Black lady, I would be embarrassed.
Yeah.
And I in my head, I was thinking, come on, sister, why are you doing this in here? It's like, man, you're not in here to get a Walgreens, Kmart, Walmart, bag. These are $3, $4, $5, $6, $8, $9, $10,000 bags.
Absolutely.
These are people, these are items for people who have reached a certain level of success financially.
Yeah.
Right. And they're able to purchase these items. There's a lot of work that goes into doing so.
Yeah.
You know, these people have large salaries and the likes. You know, this is not the ghetto store.
this ain't Dee Dee's discount.
Right. And that's what she's making. She's making it Dee Dee's discount. I mean, I mean, you don't do that there.
Nah.
It's almost like taking a person out to eat to Ruth's Chris, and they have nothing but complaints, and you want to change the whole menu. If it's provided and served one way, just keep it that way.
That's right.
But there's certain people I don't even want to eat with, because they're going to give too many complaints and make too many requests. I want ketchup. I want mustard. I want hot sauce. I want malt vinegar. I want cocktail sauce. I want horseradish. I want A1. I want Texas Pea and the other Tabasco stuff. It's like, listen, after a while, you're like, man, I'm not eating with you anymore, because you're going to do all of that.
Yeah.
And then when it comes time to tip,
MIA. Why they looking now? They're looking at you.
It's the truth. They're looking at me, or they go to the bathroom, or they say, you know, I left my wallet in the car, my purse in the car, whatever it is. Yeah. Man, I don't want to hang out with these people. Is this that? Is this just the ghetto culture of an individual just oozing out?
So the reason why I would come to such an assertion, my good brother, is because I see a few indicators of hood ratchety, right? I see
hood indicators.
I see hood indicators. There is the linguistics check, right? We got the accessories.
That's right.
Nails, etc. Check.
No, not the nails. Come on here.
Don't get me in trouble.
That's good.
We have, I mean, again, I have to say, and then I saw a hubby in the background, and he already had his Gucci hat leaned to the side. Like, if I'm working there, I'm thinking to myself one of two things. You're either a rapper who is about to blow money that, okay, that's what you're gonna do, more power to you. I'm working here, that's my job. Or you are somebody who, like you said, who's trying to fit into a certain thing that they cannot afford. Right? It's the dude trying to buy the quote unquote Hellcat, which, brothers, why y'all all want a Hellcat? What is up with that? That is crazy. Y'all want an Angel nothing, but you want a Hellcat. That's crazy. The brother going in there for the Hellcat, talking about, you see, I put all money down. Y'all just give me a 75% discount. See, my credit, the thing with my credit is my check-ins and my savings is not. I was like, no, brother, we need you to have this and this. Here's a criteria, like you said. All right. So if I'm a salesperson, I'm going and saying, okay, who are the most likely customers in here? Who's coming to kick tires, and who's actually probably going to buy? And so if you're already showing up with that energy, I'm thinking to myself, you're probably not somebody who's going to give me the least amount of problems in the buying process. Because most wealthy people, and by the grace of God, I've been blessed to have certain family members who are well-to-do, and I've had an auntie and an uncle inside of a Louis store. And guess what? They found the loafers, they found the glasses, they found the this, and they bought. That's it. That was the whole conversation.
Yes.
Right? Waited their turn, 5 minutes. Okay, cool. They're dealing with that. There's maybe 3 reps in there.
Correct.
Right? This ain't a store full of, this ain't Walmart. This ain't a store full of folks in blue jackets. No.
Right.
People in suits who are catering to, like you said, a $5,000 purchase. Right?
That's right.
And so when they made the way over, I saw it was okay. Boom, boom, done. No problems. If I'm having to deal with an issue and you're probably not going to buy anyway, I'm not going to put up with that for anything. And that's me as a black man.
Listen, I agree. That's a solid take. This last video clip I want to show you and get your response on it. This is Sarah Jakes Roberts. About a week or two ago, Mike Todd gets up there and he's using profanity and he's cursing. And now I guess Sarah Jakes Roberts said, hey man, I can do it too. I want to show you this video clip. Take a look at this.
Church did not start at 9 a.m. Church started when you woke your butt up this morning. When you opened up your eyes this morning, service started. Church.
All right. So service started when you woke your up this morning. Why? Why are we doing this? What is from Mike Todd?
Yeah.
To Sarah Jakes.
Yeah.
What's up with this?
It looks to me, and I'm gonna draw my testimony a little bit into this because my own personal story was one of, again, being raised in a church, but I didn't realize the reason it didn't appeal to a person like me is because, you know, it was a constant diet of baby formula. Like there was, I don't think I experienced more than one steak my entire time being in the church as a kid. So for me, like, we want something deeper, right? I don't want soft serve. I want to actually know, what does the word say, and tell me, you know, I don't want fairy tales and motivational speeches. And I feel like what's happened in most of, unfortunately, the church is exactly that. It's like this appeal to, you know, kind of soft serve. It's like we want to appeal to as many people as possible. We want to be cool. We want to be trendy. The pastor's now looking like the rapper, right? Like that's what I see all the time. When I think of a guy like Mike,
Yes.
I'm like, I don't know if any scriptures ever come out of that man's mouth. Right? I don't know. I don't. Jamal Bryant.
Dangly earrings.
Yeah, exactly. Right. So and when I got saved, what left? Dangly earrings and a nose ring left. That's what happened. Right? The Spirit started working on me and being like, okay, what kind of representation is this? What and you're on the pulpit. You're not somebody you're not one of the kids sitting in the pew. That's not you. You're the representation. And now that's what you're talking about. So the congregation is about to go off of whatever you're delivering. That's what I would assume.
You know, you are so right. Do you think we're at a place where some people who have deputized themselves to be pastors and preachers, that they're just running out of content? Not because the Bible doesn't offer 66 books, but because they need more gossip talk, more candy. You know, you got more candy, the better. You know.
Yeah.
What do you think?
That's good. That's really good. I've never thought about it in that perspective of like, it's, you know, a game of content, because you're right. They're all playing the same game now. It's how do I get eyeballs, views, like what's going to be the most salacious, right? You know, maybe a series on the book of James isn't going to do it necessarily, right? Or, you know, or tying the first 5 books of Moses into, you know, the coming of Christ and what that actually, maybe that's not going to get as much traction. So yeah, I could, again, with like a Mike Todd, because I haven't seen much of Sarah Jakes. I'll be honest. Like folks might get mad at me, but I'm thinking, who made her the pastor? You know what I'm talking about.
Here you go again. Now you've done it. You're in there, Tinashe.
I mean,
who did? And listen, when you consider who did it, the Bishop T.D. Jakes,
Papa,
Mr. Have you ever been swallowed? All right,
wild.
See,
wild.
So when you consider, you know, who did it, we already know that it's out of order and it's going to be chaotic. Tinashe, man, this has been good. We ran a little bit long. I don't want to take all of your time. Listen, I'm going to have you back on the show. We have to do this again.
Oh, we will.
We have to do it again. How can people support you?
Well, you guys can, I guess, search me up on YouTube, Instagram, basically anywhere they got content. I'm probably going to be there. But the best way you can support anything that anybody got going on is make sure to keep tuning into our good brother, Pastor Jay, because here's the thing. Most folks are not teaching that word, and he is. And if you can find a single pastor who is going precept by precept, you found a pastor, like an actual pastor. I don't know what the rest is, but that's supposed to be, you know, according to my Bible, that's the precepts of what that's supposed to be. You know, I just happened to pass through Titus as well this morning, right? Along with Timothy, and you know, we got some qualifications. So, you know, the best way you can support be in your word, and observe based on the word as opposed to you trying to project your own. That's the best way. Like for me on my channel, I say when it's all said and done, the best thing you can do is read for yourself.
That's good. So good. So good. Thank you so much, Tinashe.
Thank you, sir.
We'll have you back on. Take care.
I appreciate you, brother. Take care.
All right,
Peace.
you got it. You got it. Well, family and friends, thank you so much for tuning in today to Disturbing the Peace. We went in a little bit long, but it was a great conversation to bring on my friend, Lieutenant Colonel Alan West and Tinashe Peter. I pray that you were impacted by this episode. Do me a big favor. Go to my YouTube channel, like, share, and subscribe. Put this content out everywhere. Go to where I have podcasts available on Spotify and Apple and all of the platforms, and go follow and support there and share those as well. I hope that you can see that we're living in the last and evil days. Christ is soon to return, and we have the victory. But the only people who will see him, are those who have confessed with their mouths and believed in their heart that Jesus Christ is Lord. And if you haven't, you have the opportunity to do so today. God bless you, and God bless America.